Hi, guys. Welcome to the Double D Trailer Podcast. Today we are discussing loading, unloading, traveling. One of the questions that came in from our listeners or our audience: what items are important for safe loading, unloading, and traveling? And that's quite a bit of information. So we'll break that down piece by piece. I think one of the most common questions we get: should my horse load in a straight configuration or in a slant load? And, I'm not the horse expert. I've been building horse trailers for 27 years. So I've definitely had a lot of experience and a tremendous amount of feedback. And what we find from feedback from clients is, hey, if I actually load my horse in a box stall configuration, meaning there's not any partitions or dividers, sort of like an open stock, and I haul my horse untethered, typically, really 95% of the time, they'll turn at a slant facing away from the direction of travel in a reverse load configuration. And, today reverse loads account for a significant amount of our sales, and I'm sure that they do with other manufacturers as well. And we do have, I've seen over and over and over the client testimonials that have hauled in different styles or different configurations over the years with a problematic loader or a problematic hauler. And then they've come back to us and said, hey, now that I have the reverse load configuration and this and that, my horse is traveling much better. So that's one thing to consider. But all in all, whether we're talking about a straight or a slant, I like to see trailers that are safe for horse as well as handler. And in a 2-horse straight load, for example, often if you have a difficult loader, you have to walk the horse straight in. If there's an escape door for the handler, that works great because you can walk in, tie off, turn around, step back out, and then go around to the back of the trailer and drop in the butt bar or something of that nature to secure the horse in that stall. When you're loading horse number 2 in that same straight load, when it's the first horse, the divider, you can sort of push it over to the side. So it's more inviting. But when loading the second horse, you don't have that option. And it's more of, it's a more narrow loading space. It's not nearly as inviting. It's more claustrophobic, kind of creates that hallway effect, in my opinion. So when you load the second horse, same thing, you'd walk in. If you don't have an escape door or a place for the handler to get out of the way, then hopefully you have a solid loader or one that can self-load. Otherwise, you could definitely injure yourself by trying to slither back out between the horses. And I've heard folks, hey, I've been hauling in this straight load configuration all my life. I've never had any problems. And as long as you don't have any problems, you don't have any problems. But when you have one, then it's a problem. And it only takes that one accident where it could be detrimental. So in my mind, I like to create designs to where we are passionate about making sure that that accident doesn't happen ever. And so there's some things that we can do when unloading the horse in that same configuration out of the straight load. I'm not super happy about that because, horse number 1, you have to put the horse in reverse. A lot of horses don't like to back out. And then even with the second guy, there's just not enough room in a straight load typically to back the horse out, spin him around and walk out. So unless you have a longer wheelbase design with perhaps a side ramp so that you could walk the horse in and walk the horse out. My personal preference, I'm just not a huge fan of the slant load for those reasons, straight load for those reasons. Now, when we're talking about slant loads, I like to see designs where the entire back of the trailer is open and available for loading and unloading. And a lot of slant loads, they'll have the rear saddle compartment. And, many horses will self-load. But if you have one that doesn't, the first thing that's happening is you're asking the horse to walk through that very narrow space between the rear tack and the sidewall of the trailer. So immediately, the panic can increase, the cortisol levels can go up. Horses don't like to load in those dark, confining spaces. They're designed by God to roam in open pastures with lots of space. So to try to put a horse in a confining trailer right out of the gate there can certainly cause hauling issues. So look for designs that have a rear tack where you can get the saddle compartment out of the way. You can walk in yourself as a handler, whether it's a 1-horse, a 2-horse, or a 3-horse, it's not going to matter. You can walk in horse number 1, tie off the head, close the partition. You safely walk out of the back, so you're never in a really confined space in case your horse spooks for whatever reason and you need to get the heck out of the way quickly. Then, if you have a trailer that has all of the back of the trailer open without that confining space, your chances of getting in and out safely are much greater. Same thing with horse number 2. If it's a 3-horse, you'll walk in, you'll walk back out. And then for the 3rd horse, you'll load that guy, close off the partition. If there is one, a majority of slant loads, if it's a 3-horse, they only have 2 dividers. I prefer to see trailers with a divider for all 3, so that when the saddle compartment's out of the way, you have the whole back of the trailer open, you load the last guy, you close the divider, and it really works well for unloading also, because as a handler, you can open the back doors of the trailer and wait for the guy closest to the rear. You can calm your horse down. You'll be able to, just make sure that it's a safe situation before you open that partition and try to start unloading. Another advantage that we see in slant loads that are, have that wide open space to get in and out is you can typically just spin the horse around and walk him or her out. So it's a walk in, walk out type scenario. And in my mind, it's just a safer design to do that, much less risk of accidents or just having a horse that doesn't like to haul in that small space. I strongly recommend against trailers that have a rear saddle compartment and clients are trying to load and unload with the saddle compartment still in its place in the rear tack. And the reason for that, sure, if you're having to walk in, and I'm going to stay with this 3-horse slant version, you're having to lead your horse in. You lead in number 1, you close off. You lead in number 2, you close off. Well, when you lead in number 3 horse, where are you going to go? And there's nowhere. There's not an escape door at the back of the trailer. That's generally where the tires and wheels and fenders are. So there's not a door there. And it puts you having to either slither in between the horse and the divider, or either between the horse and the wall of the rear tack compartment. And it's just a prime opportunity for a 1,000 or 1,500 pound animal to smash a 150 pound human. So I strongly recommend against that. And again, I know folks do it all the time, but I also know of folks that have been injured from it. So if we have these techniques that we create and these designs that we create that, force the user to not do that, I'm certainly an advocate of that, because then whether it's the first owner that has the trailer or the 10th owner or your 13-year-old daughter that's loading, it's a safe design. Because just, handling horses in general, there are some risk with that. So the more things that we can do to minimize that risk, the better. The other things to look for, at least from the traveling, you just want to make sure that you have a trailer that's well lit, open, inviting. Large windows will provide ample light through there. They'll provide more airflow if needed. The dividers, you'll just want to make sure you have a tubular, a see-through style divider, not the ones that are solid sheeted. So when you put the horse in, they can't see, through the bars. It's very confining, just increases the claustrophobia there. And can make for a not nearly as pleasant hauling experience. And it also reduces the airflow. And the reason a lot of manufacturers do that solid sheet is just faster to build, and faster means less labor, which results in cost savings. So you truly do get in this industry what you pay for. Speaking of dividers, one of our clients or our listeners sent in a photo just last week of, I think it was a 4-horse slant load, all aluminum, very well-known brand in the United States. They had gotten themselves into an accident, and every single divider in the trailer, the trailer never rolled over or anything like that, wasn't severely impacted and just, super crushed. But for whatever reason, every divider in that trailer had broken. Aluminum is a very brittle type material, and so it's actually very malleable. It's easy to bend, but in order to get it the strength, we have to make it thick. And when you make it thick, then it becomes brittle. It doesn't necessarily bend. It'll move, and then it just breaks. Unlike a piece of steel, that you can bend it, and it typically will just bend and not break. So it was quite frightening to see those partitions, because once it breaks, it's not a nice, clean, safe cut that it broke. It's very jagged and lots of sharp edges. So I hope the horses were okay in that accident. But, we've had clients of ours in the trailers that we've built, and rollover situations and things like that. And all that's on our website. And, the dividers hold up very well. So whatever you're loading your horse in, just make sure that you have a partition that is able to withstand that high impact, that high stress situation, AKA a horse spooking, getting a leg over, someone smashing into the rear end or to the sidewall of your trailer. You want to make sure that the horse is not going to get injured on those partitions. And then lastly, as far as a comfortable hauling experience, and it even comes down to loading and unloading, I'm just not a fan of mangers. I know that a lot of straight load trailers, they'll have sort of the box built underneath the horse's head, and you can throw some feed or some grain or hay up there, and your guy can eat while en route. The problem with that, one, they're not able to lower their heads to cough and clear dust and debris while traveling. So that's an issue. If it's a slant load, it's the same problem. They can't lower their heads. Speaking of slants and large horses, we do hear from time to time, hey, I can't use a slant load because I have a 17-2 warm blood. That is 1,000% inaccurate. You simply can't use a slant load that is built to only haul a 15-2 hand guy and put in a 17-2 horse in there. So as with clothing, horse trailers are no different. It's not a one-size-fits-all. We successfully and have for many years have clients hauling very large breeds of horses in slant configuration. So just keep that in mind. But back to the manger, I don't like to see those storage mangers. They can bring some convenience, I guess, from a hauling or storage perspective. So you can throw some more stuff in there as the user. But one, the horse can't lower their heads. And two, when you're trying to turn your horse around and walk out, the dividers are shorter, and it just creates a lot more trouble, a lot more claustrophobia. So I just prefer to not see any of that in the trailer. Other than that, the main things to look for, if it's a straight load, I like to see the side ramps. You can walk in, walk out, make sure the dividers are tubular. That's fantastic. If it's a slant load, and it has the rear tack, just make sure you get the saddles and you get the saddle compartment out of the way when you load and unload. It'll be safer for you, safer for your horse, and also a more pleasant loading and unloading experience. It seems like if a horse ever gets stressed in a particular trailer, it can become challenging, trying to get that guy to haul again and just not tense up and sweat up.